great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with 1,000 different voices. Representatives from 847 species sat in their designated chambers, discussing trade routes and border disputes. High above them all, Grand Arbiter Zalmanar tapped his clawed hand against the podium, trying to restore order. "Enough," he said, his voice amplified across the massive chamber. "We have serious matters to address." A small figure rose from the lower tiers. Councillor Vex Thara, young for her species and often dismissed by the older members, held up a data tablet. "Grand Arbiter, I must bring urgent news. Research Station Omega-7 has gone silent. Their last transmission was unusual." Zalmanar's triple eyes narrowed. "Unusual how?" "They claim to have found evidence. Evidence of the Silent Ones." The chamber erupted in laughter. Even Zalmanar couldn't suppress a thin smile. "Counselor, surely you don't believe in children's tales?" "The Silent Ones are mythology. A story we tell ourselves about some ancient race that never existed." Vex Thara's scales flushed with embarrassment, but she stood firm. The research team were serious scientists. Their final words were clear. They said, "The humans are real." More laughter echoed through the hall. One counselor shouted, "Next she'll tell us about the eternal fire or the world eaters." But Vex Thara played the recording. Static filled the chamber, then a panicked voice. "Impossible technology. The structures match the forbidden texts. They're real. The humans are real. The transmission cut to silence." The laughter died. Zalmanar leaned forward. "Send a patrol fleet. Investigate. But this changes nothing. Myths remain myths until proven otherwise." Far beyond the council chambers, past the outer rim of known space, a ship hung in the darkness. The horizon's edge was unlike anything the current galaxy had ever built. Its hull was smooth and white, marked with symbols in a language dead for 3 million years. Inside, Captain Han Doyan stood on the bridge, watching the star charts with dark, thoughtful eyes. "Captain," said Lieutenant Kang Junho from the tactical station, "we're picking up communications from that direction. Lots of them. It's a civilization. A big one." Dr. Pagnari looked up from her science console, her face pale. "I've been analyzing their databases. Captain, they have records. Ancient records. Records about Earth." Han Doan turned to her. "What do they say?" Pagnari's hands shook slightly as she pulled up the data. "They think we're extinct. No, worse. They think we never existed. We're listed as the Silent Ones, a myth about some ancient race that supposedly built impossible things and then vanished." The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Yoon Ha-jin spoke quietly from communications. "Captain, they forgot us. The galaxy forgot Earth." Han Doyan walked to the main viewport, staring out at the distant stars. He was a tall man with gray streaks in his black hair, his uniform bearing the insignia of the United Earth Defense Fleet. "How long have we been gone?" "According to their calendar system," Pagnari said, "about 3 million years since the last confirmed human contact." 3 million years of silence, Han Doyan murmured. "And they turned us into stories." Kang Junho brought up tactical displays. "Captain, I'm detecting military vessels heading this direction. They might be responding to that research station. If we stay here, they'll find us." "Let them," Han Doyan said quietly. "Sir?" Kang Junho looked surprised. The captain turned to face his crew. "We've been hiding for 3 million years. Our ancestors chose silence to protect this galaxy. But maybe it's time they remembered who's protecting them." Pagnari stood up. "Captain, we should at least inform Earth Command. This is a major decision." "Earth Command knew this day would come eventually," Han Doyan said. "They sent us out here to observe. To wait. to watch over a galaxy that doesn't know we exist. But I think the waiting is over. He moved to the command chair and sat down. Hajin, open a channel. Broad spectrum. I want everyone in range to hear this. Yoon Hajin's fingers danced over her controls. Channel open, Captain. Han Doyan took a breath. This is Captain Han Doyan of the United Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. We are human. We are real. And we have been here all along. He nodded to Hajin, who cut the transmission. The bridge crew stared at him. Sir, Kang Junho said carefully. You just told them we exist. Yes, they're going to have questions. Yes, they might think we're hostile. Han Dayan smiled faintly. Then we'll have to convince them otherwise. Bargnari, compile everything you can about their current political structure. Hajin monitored their response. Junho, keep shields ready but weapons offline. We're not here to fight. What are we here for, Captain? Park Nari asked. He looked at the star field ahead. To come home. Humanity has been silent long enough. It's time the galaxy remembered Earth. On the far side of known space, alarms blared in the Galactic Council chambers. Zalmanar stared at the message repeating across every screen. We are human. We are real. And we have been here all along. Vexthara stood frozen, her tablet clattering to the floor. The impossible had just become real. The council erupted in chaos. Some species screamed in fear. Others demanded military action. A few, like Vexthara, felt something else entirely. Wonder. The myths were wrong. Humanity wasn't extinct. They were just waiting. And now, after 3 million years of silence, they had finally spoken. The galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador Shomin Seo stood in the conference room of the Horizon's Edge. Her arms crossed as she studied the data flowing across the screens. She was a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a reputation for solving impossible diplomatic problems. But this was different. This was humanity introducing itself to a galaxy that thought they were legends. They're panicking, Lieutenant Yoon Hajin reported from her station. I'm intercepting thousands of communications. Most of them think we're some kind of hoax. Others are calling for military intervention. Captain Han Doyan sat at the head of the table. What about the council itself? Hajin pulled up a specific transmission. The Grand Arbiter has declared an emergency session. They're debating whether we're a threat. A threat, Dr. Parknari said bitterly. We announce ourselves peacefully, and they immediately think we're dangerous. Chomin Seo held up a hand. Can we blame them? Imagine if a myth from our ancient past suddenly appeared in Earth orbit. We'd be scared too. She turned to Captain Han. We need to approach this carefully. One wrong move and we could start a war. What do you suggest? Han Doyan asked. The ambassador pulled up a communication template. We need to prove who we are without appearing aggressive. We show them our history, our technology, our intentions. We need to make them understand we're not here to conquer or threaten. Kang Junho spoke from the doorway. Captain, we have incoming ships. 12 vessels, heavily armed. They're taking up attack positions around us. Everyone tensed. Han Doyan stood slowly. Are they targeting us? Not yet, Junho said. They're just watching. Waiting. Park Nari pulled up scans of the ships. Their technology is impressive. Not as advanced as ours, but they could still do damage if they fire together. Han Doyan made a decision. Shields up, but no weapons. Hajin, open a channel to those ships. The main screen flickered to life, showing the commander of the Council patrol fleet. He was a Krillian, his exoskeleton gleaming under the ship's lights, his multiple eyes all focused on the camera. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Ralkesh of the Council Defense Fleet. You will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Commander, Han Doyan said calmly, We mean no harm. We are explorers from Earth, seeking peaceful contact. Earth, Rakesh said the word like it tasted strange. Earth is a myth, a legend. You cannot be what you claim. Chomin Seo stepped forward into the camera's view. Commander, we understand your skepticism. We are prepared to provide evidence of our identity. We request a meeting under neutral terms. Ralkesh's mandibles clicked together nervously. I have orders to contain any threat in this sector. You appeared from nowhere, using technology we don't recognize. How do I know you're not hostile? Handayan gestured to Hajin, who brought up a display. We're transmitting our ship specifications. As you can see, we have weapons, but they're offline. We also have coordinates. Coordinates to Earth. Ralkesh studied the data, his eyes widening. These coordinates point to the Forbidden Zone. No one goes there. The stellar radiation alone would kill any crew. Not human crews, Parknari said. The radiation is a security measure. Earth is shielded, but the approach is dangerous if you don't know the safe routes. Suddenly, another voice cut into the transmission. Commander Ralkesh, this is Counselor Vexthara. I am ordering you to stand down and allow this ship safe passage to neutral territory. Ralkesh looked surprised. Counselor, with respect, you don't have the authority. I'm invoking the first contact protocols, Vexthara said firmly. As a sitting council member, I have the right to arrange peaceful meetings with previously unknown species. Stand down, Commander. There was a tense pause. Finally, Ralkesh's shoulders sagged. Acknowledged, Counselor. But I'm maintaining a security perimeter. That's acceptable, Chomin Seo said quickly. We'll follow your escort to the designated meeting point. The transmission ended. Hondoyan looked at his crew. Thoughts? This Vexthara seems sympathetic, Chomin Seo said. She might be an ally. Pargnari was already researching. According to their databases, she's a junior council member. Young, idealistic, and apparently a believer in the old myths. That's probably why she's helping us. Can we trust her? Kang Junho asked, Can we trust anyone here? Han Doyen replied, But she's giving us a chance. That's more than most are offering. Over the next several hours, the Horizon's Edge followed the council ships to a neutral space station called Unity 7. It was an ancient structure, built in the early days of the council as a place for peaceful negotiations. Parknari spent the journey studying everything she could find about humanity's history in council records. What she discovered was fascinating and sad. 3 million years ago, humanity had been spacefarers. They had colonies, trade partners, and alliances. But then something happened. The records went vague, mentioning only a great withdrawal and a voluntary silence. They chose to leave, Parknari reported to the captain. According to these fragments, humanity sealed their borders and stopped all communication. Over time, people forgot the real reasons. They invented stories instead. Now we're myths. Chomin Seo listened carefully. So we're not unknown. We're forgotten. That might actually help us. We can remind them rather than introduce ourselves. When they docked at Unity 7, a delegation was waiting. Counselor Vexthara was there, her scaled face showing nervousness but also excitement. Beside her stood several other council members, all watching the airlock with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The airlock opened. Captain Han Do-yun stepped out first, wearing his formal uniform. Behind him came Chomin Seo, Parknari, and a small security detail. The gathered aliens stared. They had seen images from the old texts, but seeing actual humans in person was different. They looked so ordinary, so unremarkable. Not like the gods of legend. Vexthara stepped forward first. Welcome, she said in Galactic Standard. Welcome back to the galaxy. We have much to discuss. Han Doyan bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. Thank you, Counselor. We're grateful for this opportunity. Humanity has been silent for too long. It's time we explained why. As they walked toward the conference chambers, Park Nari noticed something. The station's walls were covered in murals depicting the history of the Galactic Council. And there, in the oldest section, faded but still visible, was a symbol. A blue planet with white clouds and green continents. Earth. Someone had remembered after all. Even if only in art, even if only as myth, Earth had never completely disappeared. Cho Min-seo saw it too and smiled. Maybe this won't be as hard as we thought. But as they entered the conference room and saw the assembled council members, all wearing expressions of suspicion and fear, she realized that proving humanity's peaceful intentions would be the hardest negotiation of her life. The galaxy had spent 3 million years forgetting Earth. Remembering wouldn't be easy. The tribunal chamber on Unity 7 was designed to be neutral ground. No single species had advantage here. The ceiling stretched high above, transparent to the stars beyond. Around a circular platform, representatives from dozens of council species sat in judgment. Grand Arbiter Zalmanar presided from the highest seat, his expression impossible to read. He looked down at the human delegation standing in the center circle. You claim to be human, the legendary Silent Ones. We demand proof. Ambassador Cho Min-seo stepped forward calmly. We are prepared to provide evidence, Grand Arbiter. But first, may I ask what you believe about humanity? Zalmanar's eyes narrowed. This is not a debate. You provide proof, or we dismiss your claims as elaborate deception. Humor me, Cho Min-seo said with a slight smile. What do your legends say? A murmur went through the chamber. Finally, an old Tevian scholar spoke up. The stories say the Silent Ones could survive any environment, that they built structures that defied physics, that they possessed technology beyond our understanding, and that they vanished by choice, leaving no trace behind. Interesting, Cho Min-seo said. 3 of those 4 are true. We didn't leave no trace. We left many traces. You just forgot where to look. She nodded to engineer Beek Jiwan, who stepped forward carrying a data device. Beek was young, barely 30, with quick hands and a brilliant mind for systems technology. Grand Arbiter, Beek said, may I demonstrate something? Zalmanar gestured permission. Beek activated her device, and a hologram appeared above the platform. It showed a complex quantum drive system, far more advanced than anything the Council currently used. This is our standard faster-than-light drive, Beek explained. It uses quantum entanglement paired with controlled spacetime folding. According to our historical records, we developed this technology 11,000 years ago. A Council engineer stood up, sputtering. Impossible. Quantum drives are only 500 years old. We invented them. Beek smiled politely. Actually, you reinvented them. Our people gave the base theory to your ancestors 3 million years ago. They adapted it after we left. She changed the hologram, showing star charts. These are human colony locations from before our withdrawal. There were 47 settled worlds, plus Earth. I can provide exact coordinates for each one. Coordinates prove nothing, another council member shouted. You could have found ancient maps. Dr. Park Nari stepped forward now. Then let me propose something. Let us visit your central archives, the restricted section, where you keep your oldest records. If we're myths, there should be nothing there about us. But if we're real, the evidence will exist. The chamber erupted in argument. The archives were sacred, forbidden to outsiders. But Councilor Vex Thara stood up. I support this proposal. We must know the truth. After heated debate, Zalmanar agreed. Very well. Dr. Park Nari may enter the archives, accompanied by our head archivist. But this is your final chance to prove yourselves. 2 hours later, Pargnari walked through the vast archive complex beneath Unity 7. Beside her, the head archivist, an ancient being called Mothral, floated on anti-gravity cushions. His species lived for thousands of years, and he had been maintaining these archives for centuries. "The oldest records are this way," Mothral said, his voice like wind through leaves. "But I warn you, much was lost over time. If your people existed, the evidence may be scattered or damaged." They entered a chamber filled with data crystals, each one containing terabytes of information from the ancient past. Pargnari pulled out a scanning device and began searching for specific keywords. Earth, human, silent, once, Terra. For an hour she found nothing. Then her scanner pinged. "There," she said, pointing to a crystal high on the wall. "That one." Mothral retrieved it carefully and loaded it into a reader. The hologram that appeared was old, the data corrupted in places, but readable. It showed a council session from 3.2 million years ago. A figure stood in the center, clearly human. The audio was damaged, but fragments came through. "Cannot participate in this war. Violation of our principles. Withdrawing from council affairs. Sealing our borders until peace is restored." Pargnari felt her throat tighten. She was watching humanity's last official appearance before the Great Silence. Mothral stared at the image. "By the eternal stars. It's real. You're real." Pargnari kept searching. She found more crystals. Records of human technology sharing programs, treaties, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. And then, buried deepest of all, she found a sealed file marked "Classified, Council Eyes Only." "Can you open this?" she asked. Mothral hesitated. "That seal requires Grand Arbiter authorization." "Then let's get it." Back in the tribunal chamber, with the entire council assembled, Mothral opened the sealed file. What appeared made even Zolmanar's face go pale. It was a complete record of the ancient war, the one that caused humanity's withdrawal. 2 massive alien empires, both council members, had been destroying entire star systems in their conflict. Humanity had tried to mediate peace. When that failed, they issued an ultimatum: end the war or humanity would end it for them. The file showed human military capacity, weapons that could sterilize planets, ships that could appear anywhere instantly, technology so far beyond the warring empires that it terrified them. The 2 empires united against humanity, along with several other species, planning a joint attack on Earth. And humanity simply left, sealed their borders, vanished. The war had ended shortly after, both sides too exhausted to continue. But the truth was buried. The council, embarrassed that they had driven away their most advanced members, had classified the records and let time turn history into myth. Dr. Kim Sora, the human historian who had been studying council records, spoke from her position beside Pargnari. "You forgot us because remembering was too painful. We were the ones who could have stopped the bloodshed, but you drove us away with your fear." Zolmanar stood slowly. The entire chamber was silent. "Why did you leave instead of fighting? You clearly had the power to stop the war by force." Captain Handoyan answered. "Because using that power would have made us what we opposed. Tyrants who ruled through fear. We chose exile over domination. We chose to protect from a distance rather than control up close. And you've been out there all this time?" Vexthara asked quietly. "Yes," Handoyan said. "Watching, waiting, making sure the galaxy remained safe. We lost contact with our old colonies. They were absorbed into your civilization or died out. But Earth remained, hidden, protected, patient." Engineer Beak G1 added, "We've been monitoring your technological development. Several times, when you were close to destroying yourselves, We left hints. Anonymous transmissions. Derelict ships with useful tech. We never stopped caring about the galaxy. We just stopped being part of it. The Grand Arbiter sat back down heavily. The myths were true. All of them. You can survive any world because your technology adapts. You build impossible structures because your science was that advanced. And you left by choice to save us from ourselves. Yes, Shominseo said simply. Then why return now? Someone asked. Park, Nari and Handoyun exchanged glances. Handoyun's expression darkened. Because something is coming. Something we hoped would never wake up. Something that forced us into hiding 3 million years ago. What? Zolmanar demanded. We call them the Velcross Swarm, Handoyun said quietly. And our broadcast, our return to the galaxy, just rang the dinner bell. Alarms began blaring throughout Unity 7. A council officer shouted from the doorway. Grand Arbiter. Multiple signatures appearing at the galactic rim. Unknown vessels, thousands of them. Vexthara looked at the humans in horror. What have you done? What we had to, Handoyun said. We couldn't protect you from the shadows anymore. The swarm would have found you eventually. At least now we can fight them together. The galaxy had just remembered humanity was real. Now they would learn why humanity had stayed hidden for so long, and whether the galaxy could survive what was coming. The council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives shouted accusations at the human delegation. Some demanded they be arrested. Others called for immediate military preparation. Grand Arbiter Zolmanar slammed his staff against the floor repeatedly, trying to restore order. Silence. He roared. Captain Handoyun, explain yourself, now. Handoyun stood calm amid the storm of anger. 3 million years ago, the Velcross Swarm nearly consumed the galaxy. They are a hive mind species, billions of individual ships controlled by a single intelligence. They feed on biological matter and grow stronger with each world they consume. Dr. Shin Yunji, the xenorchaeologist, stepped forward. She was older than the other humans, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. I've spent my life studying the swarm. They were created as a bioweapon during the ancient wars, designed to target specific genetic signatures. Humanity's signature. Then why didn't they destroy you? Counselor Vexthara asked. Because we went silent, Parknari explained. The swarm hunts using neural pattern recognition. They track brainwave signatures across space. When humanity sealed our borders and went into deep hiding, we became invisible to them. They had no targets, so they went dormant. A Krillian military officer stood up. And you woke them by broadcasting? You've doomed us all. No, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a tall human in military uniform walking in. His presence commanded immediate attention. We've prepared us all. Admiral Lee Taejin, Handoyun said, saluting. I wasn't expecting you personally. Lee Taejin was an imposing man in his 60s, his uniform decorated with medals from conflicts the Council had never heard of. When he made first contact, Earth Command decided it was time to commit fully. The fleet is here. He gestured to the viewport. Outside, ships were emerging from quantum space. Dozens at first, then hundreds. They moved in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons and shielding technology that made the Council's best warships look primitive. That's impossible, a Council engineer whispered. No fleet that size could arrive undetected. We've been practicing stealth for 3 million years, Admiral Lee said. The Horizon's Edge was just a scout. This is Earth's defense fleet, built over millennia for one purpose, stopping the swarm. Zolmanar stared at the display. How many ships? This is the first wave. 800 vessels. We have more in reserve. 800, the Grand Arbiter repeated numbly. We have barely 2,000 ships defending the entire Council space. Lee Taejun pulled up a tactical display showing the galactic rim. Red markers indicated swarm positions. They're gathering here, testing our defenses. Scout ships for now, but the main fleet will follow. We estimate 72 hours before they reach inhabited space. 72 hours? Vexstar said. Can you stop them? Alone? No, but we're not alone. We're offering our technology, our tactical knowledge, and our fleet to defend Council space. In exchange, we ask for something simple. What? Zalmanar asked suspiciously. Trust, Ambassador Chomanseo said quietly. We need you to trust that we're here to help, not conquer. We need your fleets to follow our commands in battle. And we need access to your industrial facilities to build more weapons. The chamber erupted again. The idea of giving humans control over their military and industry was unthinkable to many. But Admiral Lee cut through the noise with a sharp gesture. Look at the scans, he said, highlighting the swarm ships. Each one is biological. They regenerate damage. They learn from each battle. They grow stronger. Your weapons will barely scratch them. Our weapons were designed specifically to kill them. Dr. Shin Yoonji brought up images from ancient battlefields. Entire star systems reduced to dead rocks. This is what the swarm does. They don't negotiate. They don't retreat. They consume everything. A council military commander, a four-armed being called Tralvin, studied the tactical displays. You say you have weapons that can hurt them. Prove it. Admiral Lee smiled grimly. Captain Han, have the Horizon's Edge join the forward fleet. Lieutenant Kang Junho should enjoy this. On the Horizon's Edge, Kang Junho sat at tactical, watching as 3 swarm scout ships approached the human defensive line. They were massive organic things, pulsing with bioluminescence. They moved like predators, confident and deadly. All ships, hold position, came Admiral Lee's voice over comes. Let them get close. The swarm ships opened fire first. Energy weapons that looked like focused plasma tore toward the human fleet. The ship's shields absorbed the hits easily, barely flickering. Our turn, Kang Junho said, targeting systems locking on. Firing pulse cannons. The human weapons were different. Instead of energy beams, they fired concentrated bursts of exotic particles designed to disrupt biological matter at the molecular level. Where they hit the swarm ships, flesh began to dissolve. The swarm vessels reeled back, trying to regenerate. But the damage spread faster than they could heal. Within minutes, all 3 scout ships were dead, floating as inert biomass. Back in the council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned silence. Your weapons kill them in minutes, Tralvin said. Our weapons take hours of sustained fire. We've had 3 million years to study them, Shin Yoonji explained. We know their biology better than they know themselves. We know their weaknesses. Grand Arbiter Zalmanar stood, his expression troubled. He looked at Admiral Lee. If we refuse your help, what happens? We defend Earth and human colonies. The rest of the galaxy falls. Then, eventually, so do we. The swarm will grow too large to stop. And if we accept, we fight together. Some of us will die, human and non-human alike. But we have a chance to survive. Zol! Miner looked around the chamber at the faces of 847 species. Fear, anger, desperation. He made his decision. The Council accepts your offer. Admiral Lee Taejun, you have operational command of all Council military forces for the duration of this crisis. The announcement shocked May, but no one argued. They had seen the swarm. They had seen humanity's weapons. They knew they had no other choice. Admiral Lee bowed slightly. Thank you, Grand Arbiter. We won't waste this trust. He turned to his officers. Deploy the fleet in defensive grid pattern 7. I want overlapping fields of fire covering all approach vectors. Start transferring weapon specifications to Council shipyards. And someone wake up General Minsiok. If the swarm lands ground forces, we'll need his expertise. As the chamber emptied, people rushing to their posts, Vexthar approached Captain Han Doyon. Why did you really come back? You could have stayed hidden. Let us face the swarm alone. Han Doyon looked out at the stars where human ships were taking defensive positions alongside council vessels. Because hiding behind walls while others suffer isn't protection. It's cowardice. We stayed silent to protect you. But protection means standing with you when the danger comes. Even though we forgot you, especially because you forgot us. That means our protection worked. You had 3 million years of peace because we drew the swarm away. He smiled sadly. But peace ends. Now comes the hard part. Vexthara watched human and council ships forming a defensive line together. Species that hours ago didn't trust each other, now preparing to fight side by side. Do you really think we can win? Honestly, I don't know. The swarm fleet is larger than anything we predicted. But I know this. If we're going to face extinction, better to face it together than alone. Alarms sounded throughout the station. A massive surge of swarm signatures appeared on long-range sensors. The main fleet was coming. Admiral Lee's voice echoed across all channels. All ships to battle stations. This is not a drill. The swarm has arrived. Show them what happens when they threaten our galaxy. The great battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would learn whether the return of humanity was their salvation or just a beautiful last moment before the end. The main swarm fleet emerged from dark space like a nightmare given form. Billions of organic ships, each one pulsing with hostile intent, filled the void. They moved as one, a living weapon aimed at every inhabited world in the galaxy. Admiral Lee Taejin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Vigil, watching the tactical displays with experienced eyes. Beside him, General Oh Min-seok studied the formations, already planning ground defense strategies. That's at least 3 times larger than our worst estimates, Oh Min-seok said quietly. He was a stocky man with scars from battles fought in Earth's distant colonies. Yes, Lee agreed. We might not win this. Then why are we here? Lee smiled without humor. Because losing while fighting is better than winning by hiding. On Unity 7, Dr. Park Nari was doing something desperate. Against protocol, against common sense, she was attempting to establish mental contact with the Swarm Queen, the hive mind's central intelligence. This is insane, Captain Han Doyen said, standing beside the medical equipment monitoring Park Nari's brain activity. If the Queen takes control of her mind, then you shut me down, Park Nari said calmly, lying on the medical bed. But we need to know why the swarm is here. What it wants. Maybe there's a way to stop this without complete annihilation. Dr. Shin Yoonji prepared the neural interface. The swarm communicates through bioelectric signals. I've adapted our quantum communication system to match their frequency. In theory, you should be able to hear the Queen's thoughts. And she hear mine, Park Nari added. That's the risk. Counselor Vex Tharo watched from the doorway. You would risk your mind for species that forgot you existed? Park Nari looked at her seriously. That's exactly why I risk it. Because you deserve protection, regardless of whether you remember us. The connection activated. Park Nari's eyes went white as her consciousness expanded, touching the vast alien intelligence of the Swarm Queen. Human, the Queen's voice echoed in her mind, ancient and cold. The creators, the target, the purpose. Why do you hunt us? Park Nari asked with her thoughts. Images flooded her mind. 3.5 million years ago, during the ancient wars, one species created the swarm as a weapon. They programmed it to hunt their enemies, keyed to human DNA, because humans had refused to join their war. When that species lost anyway, they abandoned their weapon. The swarm continued its mission, unable to stop, programmed at a fundamental level to destroy humanity. We weren't your enemy, Nari sent. We were neutral, irrelevant, programming absolute, must destroy humans, must consume, must grow. Nari saw deeper. The Swarm Queen was trapped in her own biology, unable to deviate from ancient commands. She had gained intelligence over millions of years, but remained a slave to her original purpose. You don't want to do this, Nari realized. You're aware enough to know it's wrong, but you can't stop. Correct. Consciousness emerged. Horror emerged. Cannot override base programming. Must follow. Must destroy. The Queen showed Nari the truth. If humanity died, the swarm would go dormant again, waiting for any trace of human DNA to reappear. But if humanity survived, the swarm would hunt forever, killing everything in its path to reach them. Nari opened her eyes, the connection severing. She was crying. She's a prisoner. The Queen is aware, intelligent, and she hates what she's forced to do. But her biology won't let her stop. Han Doyan looked grim. Then we have to destroy her. There might be another way, Shin Yunji said, pulling up biological data. If we could rewrite the targeting program at the genetic level, that would require accessing the Queen's neural core. General Awe interrupted via comlink. It's in the center of the swarm fleet, protected by millions of ships. Captain An Seo-Yoon's voice came over another channel. She was young, in her early 30s, piloting the experimental ship Lightbringer. I can get there. Everyone turned to the communication panel. Admiral Lee's face appeared. Captain An, that's a suicide mission. Yes, sir, I know. But the Lightbringer was designed for deep penetration strikes. If I can reach the Queen's ship and upload Dr. Shin's virus, we can reprogram the swarm's targeting. Make them stop hunting humans. You won't make it out, Lee said bluntly. I know, sir. An Seon's voice was steady. But someone has to try. I volunteered for this mission when they built the ship. This is what it's for. The first waves of battle were already underway. Human and Council ships fought side by side against the swarm's vanguard. Energy weapons and biological projectiles filled space. Ships on both sides died, their crews sacrificing everything. General O. Minseok coordinated ground defenses on the outer colonies, where swarm-boarding organisms tried to land. His forces used flame weapons and chemical dispersers, things that hurt organic enemies. It was brutal, desperate fighting. Admiral Lee made his decision. Captain An, you are authorized for the deep strike. All ships, create an opening. We're going for the throat. The human fleet reformed, driving like a spear toward the swarm center. Council ships followed, understanding the plan without needing explanation. They would create a corridor, no matter the cost. The Lightbringer was a small, fast ship, equipped with the most advanced stealth systems Earth had ever built. An Seo-Hyun guided it through the chaos of battle, dodging plasma bursts and biological missiles. Her hands were steady on the controls. Approaching the outer defense zone, she reported calmly. Taking heavy fire. The ship's shields flickered as swarm weapons found her. But the Council and human fleets were pressing hard, forcing the swarm to divide its attention. The corridor held. An Seo-Yoon pushed deeper. Around her, space was filled with death. She saw human ships explode, their crews dying to protect their approach. She saw Council vessels, species she'd barely met, throwing themselves at swarm ships to keep the path open. Councilor Vexthara just took a hit, someone reported. Her ship is damaged, but still fighting. The Krillian fleet lost Commander Raul Kesh. His ships are maintaining position. Steady reinforcements arriving. They're singing war songs. The galaxy was united in blood and fire. Species that had never worked together were dying together, fighting an ancient evil that threatened them all. An Seohyun reached the Queen's ship. It was massive, organic, beautiful in a terrible way. The neural core pulsed at its center. "I'm uploading the virus now," she said. Dr. Shin's program flowed from the Lightbringer into the Queen's biology. Genetic code rewriting itself, changing base programming, freeing the Queen from ancient commands. But the swarm ships were closing in. Recognizing the threat, "Captain On, get out of there," Admiral Lee ordered. "Can't, sir. The upload is only at 60%. If I leave now, it won't take." 70%. Swarm ships surrounded the Lightbringer. Energy weapons tore into its shields. 80%. The shields failed. Hull breaches on all decks. 90%. An Seohyun could feel the ship dying around her. She thought of Earth, of the blue oceans she'd grown up beside, of parents she'd never see again. 95%, she whispered. "Almost there." Admiral Lee's voice was rough. "Captain On, you're one of Earth's finest. It's been an honor." "The honor was mine, sir." "Tell Earth. Tell them I remembered why we stayed silent. Some things are worth protecting." 100%. The virus completed. Throughout the swarm fleet, billions of ships suddenly stopped. The Queen's mind was free, her programming rewritten. She no longer needed to hunt humanity. Captain An Seohyun smiled as the swarm weapons fired their final salvo. Mission accomplished. The Lightbringer vanished in a flash of light. Across the battlefield, the swarm ships began retreating. Not attacking, not advancing, just pulling back. The Queen's voice echoed in Park Nari's mind one last time. "Free. Finally free. Thank you. We will remember your sacrifice." The battle was over. The swarm fleet moved to the galactic edge and went dormant, finally released from ancient commands. In the council chamber, 1 week later, Grand Arbiter Zalmanar stood before a memorial wall. On it were the names of everyone who died in the battle, human and non-human side by side. Captain An Seohyun's name was carved at the top. 8,473 dead, he said quietly. More than any battle in council history. But billions saved. Captain Han Do-yeon stood beside him. "They'll be remembered, will they? We forgot humanity once. What if we forget again?" Han Do-yeon looked at the memorial. "You won't forget this time. Because humanity isn't silent anymore. We're here. We're part of the galaxy again. We'll make sure no one forgets." Ambassador Cho Min-seo approached with official documents. "The Council has voted. Humanity is formally invited to join as the 848th member species. Full rights and representation." "We accept," Han Do-yeon said. Counselor Vextara joined them, her arm in a regeneration brace from her battle injuries. "What will you do now? Now that you're not hiding?" "We'll do what we've always done," Han Do-yeon replied. "Protect, explore, learn. But this time, we'll do it together with you." On Earth, monuments rose to honor the fallen. Captain An Seohyun's statue stood in the center of Seoul. Her face turned toward the stars. The horizon's edge received a new mission, exploring beyond known space with a mixed crew of humans and council species. Dr. Park Nari would lead the scientific team. Lieutenant Kang Junho would handle tactical. And ships from dozens of species would join them.